Yo, what's up? It's your boy AG the Dad. It's Shit Talking Sundays inside the man cave. We talking his story uh with your boy Big Twizz. What's going down, Big Twizz?
Twizzle and the Bizzle. What's
You
up,
know,
my nizzle?
man, I'm trying to learn his story, man. My Giants is winning. We about to make more his story. And Man, I heard we got a return guest that was well educated in the verbinology of indigenous people.
Very well spoken, gentlemen, young gentlemen.
Yes. We all know him from before. Before we introduce him, is there anything you want to talk about real quick?
Let's talk about did you see the fight last night?
Yes, Adesanya did exactly what I thought was going to happen. I was even talking about it with my boy.
Right.
That Adesanya, I knew he was going to beat dude's ass the whole time, and as long as he didn't get caught, he was going to win. And I knew it was going to be. He's lost twice. This will be the third time for us as MMA fans. He's only lost once, but after 3 times, I'm not gonna say dude has his number because he doesn't. It just like that Usman fight. Usman, he didn't have dude didn't have his number, but it was just not his night. But you know what? That's not what everybody's here for. Everybody's here. They want to know his story, man. So let's get right in, man. Let's bring Cedric on and let's get in.
Let's get it. Oh, there you go.
What up, man?
What's up?
Hey guys.
Hey.
Nice and clear. Nice and clear. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. So,
Okay,
it's Sunday, one of our holy days, man. I'm resting and I'm up and active, ready for some good socializing.
I know that's right, man. Welcome back to Shit Talking Sundays. Big Twizzle, the man cave. Everybody, put them thumbs up, subscribe. So how'd you like last time coming on here, man? That was your first time, man. You did real good. You came with some good information. We enjoyed ourselves, man. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the last time I was on the show. It was my first time ever being on podcasts.
Right.
Or like live discussion. It was fun, stimulating. It had like every like nerve in my brain, like charged up, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, man. You're gonna have to keep on coming back, man. We're gonna have to keep on putting this truth out there.
Yeah. Today I plan on dropping a lot from my pamphlet, this book I'm working on. Just really going through the introduction, and hopefully you guys can like interject and ask questions on like whatever I'm reading through, whatever questions you possibly have. It's going to be definitely a different perspective than we're usually getting on our history here in the United States.
Okay, so yeah, that's what the show is today. Pretty much our history in United States. Your story, your book. What is the name of your book again?
You know what? I actually had came up with a name for the book, but I forgot it.
Hey man, how you gonna promote your book if you don't remember the name, man?
Because the file is just titled introduction. I had actually sent it to somebody, but I ended up deleting that conversation. So I don't have that's one thing I'll do is I will send notes to myself to reference back on, and that was one of the notes that I ended up sending was like the name I had for my book. I ended up thinking it up, and I just completely.
Wow.
It'll come back to me later when I get back into typing it up more.
Well, we'll call it "Welcome to Being Black," the introduction. So that's the book
Yeah.
title for right now until you call it something else. So for all y'all out there, the book is
Negroes to Aborigines.
you know, here's your introduction to being black. So I mean, let's just jump in, man. Give us the summary. Tell us a little bit about it, and
All right.
what is
So
it about history that we don't know?
yeah, so I'm just gonna jump into it. This is a summary. It's an autobiography on myself, and I'm just gonna read an introduction. This is my list of knowledge acquired while living under a foreign occupational government. I, Cedric Porter Braziel Jr., born June 14, 1993 in San Francisco, California, struggle to begin context of this information. This shared inner monologue: I was born under a foreign occupational government known as Unum Sanctum, synonymous with United States and abbreviated often as U.S. This foreign power invaded our home, minds, and body, and even soul in the year 1492. Military occupation encouraged by the leaders of Unum Sanctum, the Pope of the Church, had begun in the Americas. For 500 years, European dogmatic religious groups would be shipped to the Americas to conquer the land under the command of papal bull Unum Sanctum. Mass genocide and perpetual slavery would be the basis of Unum Sanctum policy over the course of 500 years. Many wars would be fought and recorded into the archives of time to be colored and taught to myself and other Aboriginal descent Americans through an instrument known as the 1902 General Board of Education, funded by John D. Rockefeller Jr. The Board of Education would set up an MK Ultra system, the K through 12, to indoctrinate living human beings into an unconscious mental state of awareness. The educational system would work to use events that occurred prior in time as foundational truth, while coloring specific details to create their own illusions to be projected onto children born later in time. This was how Unum Sanctum was able to invade my mind after my birth in 1993. In Unum Sanctum, the first 5 years of childhood is spent with immediate family. When ready, the child is enrolled with the board education into K through 12, an elementary degree system beginning with kindergarten, a school or class that prepares children for first grade, where then after ascending into the 12th grade, completing indoctrination. Afterwards, we have two routes. We enter into the workforce under IRS as an occupational laborer, where an individual labors for the rest of their life, or be human trafficked, via sold as a military asset, various entertainment purposes. Unum Sanctum's K through 12 system is designed to indoctrinate the enlisted. I was taught a handful of accurately colored history and lessons. For example, in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the Big Blue, discovering a new continent uninhabited by a civilized modern society. This type of colored history taught by Unum Sanctum policy is a way to generate unconscious beings that do not know true world history. In not knowing actual world history, we are able to properly function in the ever-evolving modern world, as our concepts are wrong, making behaviors wrong, resulting in mental illness. A synopsis of how perpetual slavery state of existence is achieved in Unum Sanctum policy by brainwashing youth with misconceptions. It is widely known by scholars around the world as of the year 2022 that Christopher Columbus did not discover the American continent. That the American continent was known of by many ancient scholars, text sources, published works before Christopher Columbus was ever born. By grafting these false concepts of history into our minds via education, Unum sanctum policy is able to detach us from our birthrights, as we believe in ourselves that we are taught when as we believe in ourselves what we are taught when we are not knowing. When we do not know that the Americas could not be discovered because already known of and culture spreading forth the American continent by Phoenician inhabitants across the Atlantic to residing on the other end of the seas, we are forced to believe in what we are taught. Growing up learning via K through 12, I believed more than I had ever known. I believed that the United States was independent from the ruling pope. We were not taught papal bulls. We were not taught legislation. K through 12 does not teach youth actual events. It teaches reversion, colorized historical context. It takes an event in time and fantasizes the event into the illusion that fits the image of an established, legitimate government. As of 2022, it is popularly acknowledged that the United States is not a landmass. It is a private corporation. But for hundreds of years, it has falsely promoted itself as a government as well as a country. It is no secret, and it is not kept hidden or mistold, that upon invading Almagro after the fall of the Alhambra Red House in Spain, that the Negro races were introduced to the European monarchy. There is much evidence in literature, personal accounts, economic records, and organic history that the Almoroccans, or Aboriginal Americans, were Negroes in the eyes of dark, swarthy complexion, various copper-colored inhabitants. Simply put, it is a historical fact that the inhabitants of America were Aboriginal heirs to the continent. Yet the Board of Education promoted educational literature that teaches that the American people were slaves brought to the continent of Africa for labor and infrastructural development. My family, we are descendants of the Algonquin people who inhabited this region. It is in the international law and rights of that everyone is born with nationality and birthrights. Due to the system of education in the United States, U.S., everyone is deprived of their nationality and birthrights and subjected to a caste system where they are ethnically identified by brand misnomers such as black, white, Mexican, Asian. This is not unusual, as one of many ideologies promoted within the corporate entity Unum Sanctum is racism. One example of this deceit is Daniel Webster. Organic literature gives us substantial evidence that Daniel Webster, nicknamed Black Dan throughout his childhood, was of a dark, swarthy complexion, yet images online and supplied by the educational system have colored him as a casual, pale complexion European man, when all written descriptions of Daniel Webster claim him to be melanated. These changes were implemented 2 terms served by President Woodrow Wilson, where he achieved segregation of federal infrastructures by comprising a 10-volume published narrative of history based on his own perspective, which would be the colored history or artificial history disseminated through the General Board of Education. Racism is used through Unum Sanctum to brainwash youth, use those people who are legitimately, by right of birth, entitled to liberties and freedom of life. There are many prominent individuals throughout organic history that are of a swarthy complexion who are reimagined through destructive racist agendas to be remembered as white ethnic background, not to be mistaken with white legal status that many of us bear. A question I have: why is it that 44th President Barack Obama is proclaimed to be the first president of the United States, when it largely detailed in literature that the founding fathers were of various Negro bloodlines, such as 16th President Abraham Lincoln, who undoubtedly was a black man and monumental president? This doesn't just occur with modern history. There is a deeply rooted racist agenda to colorize all organic history via the means of Hollywood. Hollywood is an entertainment platform set up by multiple people over the course of time. Carl Lemonell, Harvey Wilcox, Hobart Johnstone, Hobart Johnstone Whitley, to name three founding fathers of Hollywood, which would grow into the world's most renowned entertainment industry. Hollywood is undiscussed as a cult church. As of 2019, the truth of the Unum Sanctum entertainment industry was revealed to the world with court trial of Jeffrey Epstein, now revealed to the world as a child sex offender. Using the cult practices of the elite, Jeffrey Epstein set up child sex stars from a young age to be visual teachers for the youth of the American population. These sex stars were indoctrinated and abused at young ages to be role models, myself, and others through different entertainment platforms, Disney, history. As they would age, their influence would as well. Many young men grow into abusive, mentally ill, drug-addicted adults. Young women groomed as slaves, influencing younger girls as an idol to be more openly like themselves. Hollywood was used by the elite leaders of Unum Sanctum to program our society to fit each agenda they would create. It is easy to speak against this case, but the evidence is undeniable. Stars like Britney Spears, Raven Simone, Orlando Brown, music artists each decade get more and more outrageous, more and more provocative, more and more depraved. This form of brainwashing is referred to as predictive programming. Predictive programming is accomplished by learning, one of the strongest learnings humans can experience. Monkey see, monkey do. Hollywood is a powerful predictive programming weapon. As children, we watch these movies and shows unknowingly as empty slates, ready to absorb the first knowledge revealed to us. We pick up unhealthy traits, behaviors that remain ingrained in our psyches. As we grow, so do those same traits. Do for yourself as I have done. Research stars you know of and their inevitable mental breakdowns and physical downfalls. After deep meditation, I began to develop habits to reprogram my mind, reading actual books, visiting learning by the world and not by a teacher, to disseminate misinformation, teaching myself and teaching myself, I was able to planet Earth. Much of human history on the planet needs to be redefined, and we discover more evidence that we never had the full picture. History needs a new perspective. In this short story, I will share knowledge topics of human history and share a fresh, open-minded point of view on the occult and science behind our living experience. So that's the introduction to be my autobiography, a book that I'm working on. One, it's not just about myself. I only consider it an autobiography because it is coming from my point of view. My goal is to use the occult practices that were used on us, these rituals that these Jewish mystics and mysticism practitioners have used to brainwash all of us, to influence our psyche, our form of thought, our way of thinking. In my introduction, in my book, I mentioned our president, Woodrow Wilson, who he did what we all view through history as a monumental, pivotal point or action, which was he successfully segregated the federal government. That is what Woodrow Wilson did. His biggest, if you look him up on Google, on anything, one of the first things he was the first president to segregate the federal government, because before him, the federal government, the legitimate organic United States that was abiding by Constitution, it was formed by us, melanated man, Aboriginal and Indigenous man. The Iroquois Confederation drafted the Constitution, elected people from their bloodline to run the United States. And after the Civil War that they had, where of course it was a civil war that they had, so their government split. There was the hard racists and what I would call, we call them the Union, where people were grouped together. It was like-minded people that formed a union, and then there was the Confederates. They split, fought. The war ended with the Confederates winning. The information is guised, it's colorized. We think that the Union won the war, that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves and all this. He was assassinated. We know he was assassinated. So if we are thinking on the next level, like there's the base conscious level of thought that most of our community is thinking on, which is mass conscious. And then there's that unique thought that Ant is on, that AG Dad is on, that Cedric Braziel is on, where it's a small percentage of people thinking the next level. And if we think at that level, right, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. There's no way his political party won that war and your leader is being killed. They lost that war. And after the Civil War, that United States actually went bankrupt. And then we go through a Reconstruction era in history, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with the Reconstruction era. It takes place right after the Civil War. And that's when they're reconstructing history. They're reconstructing the United States. The slaves, right? The quote unquote free slaves, freed black men, they are now being assimilated into a new form of government. Woodrow Wilson, we fast forward to the 20th century, 1913, 1912, when they are doing the Assimilation Act, where the Indian tribes are being assimilated into the United States government. Their children are being brought to, they call them like boarding schools, things like that. And they're re-educating us. They're re-educating these people. And we actually face another bankruptcy in that time period. One, because they're doing a false practice. They're enslaving people again. Black Wall Street ended up burning down in the 1920s. And then in 1933, we have the Great Depression, which is a result of the re-indoctrination, the result of Black Wall Street, burning down, the result of nationalization, because we have World War I that takes place in that time period, where the Germans or the Prussians nationalize the Germans, and they begin wanting the spoils of war because they fought the European war. They were coming over here, they were fighting us. The war is over. They finally won. In the 20th century, we also, in my book, like I'm actually detailing all of this, where it's really almost copy and pasting. But I put it in my own words, so it's not plagiarism. Like, it is known that in the 20th century, early 1900s, we started getting Europeans coming here to Florida, to New York, to California. They're if we were in the military, their civilians were now coming here, and they have records of this, of how many Europeans, by the millions, civilians would begin coming over here. The Pilgrims were here, but who were the Pilgrims? They were conquistadors. They were Navy men. They came here on the Navy, the European Navy. They were colonizers. They were soldiers. The first people that were European to come over here, they were not you and I. They were not civilians. They were military employed military soldiers. And only in the last 100 years have we been seeing their civilian populace come over. And all of that is recorded. We even have what's called the $5 Indian Act we were talking about. The last time I was on the show with you guys, we ended up mentioning the $5 Indian Act. Brother Michael last week mentioned the $5 Indian Act, where pretty much you pay $5 and you was Indian. And why would these Europeans do that? Well, for you to, like, if we think of our modern form of government right now, for you to buy a home, for you to live out here, you got to get a social security number. You got to have residency for like 7 years. You got to file all these forms to be considered a citizen. You know, we already know niggas can't be citizens. That's in the Constitution. They don't even use the Constitution, but it's in the Constitution that we cannot be citizens of their. Yeah, like the 3/4. I think it's like
3/4 of a man.
Excuse me. What were you saying, Ed?
No.
Oh.
That was Big Twizz. But since we got a little bit of a break, hey, look, anybody out there that's listening, I need you to fact check, because I don't want to promote misinformation. So if you think what you're hearing right now is not truth, fact check it, because and comment. I want to know, because for me, I want to know the truth. You know, everything he says so far sounds logical if you think about it. In 1492, what we were taught in school, Christopher Columbus discovered America. We've all, I mean, I guess in this year or last year, they just officially came out and said that no, he didn't discover it. In actuality, he was trying to discover India, but he landed on Plymouth Rock. I could be wrong. Fact check me. I could be wrong.
You are 100% right.
Okay.
100% right.
So,
but the thing with Christopher and their narrative of that is, it is true that he wanted to go to India, but he was a part of the West Indies Company, and they also had another company called the East Indies Company that was already deployed in India. Their monarchy knew where India was at. They already had a company that was trading spices with India. The British already had a company over there, but they sent Christopher Columbus and his brother as well, that form of the Navy. They were called the West Indies Company. They sent them over to the Americas. But he did, when we read his journal, he did want to go to India. That's where he wanted.
Didn't he know he was coming over here though? Because
he knew he was coming.
The Moors helped him. There was Moors on the ship that helped him sail over here, because he didn't know where, he didn't know how to get over this way. Yeah. So there was Moors that navigated him to here. And from my research, they were saying he knew he was coming over here to find the natural resources, because we've been doing trades, with Africa, with Asia, we've been doing trades. And then when his sanction was lifted, he was able, because he was in debt to Queen Isabella. And when he was able to come over here, because they're running out of the natural resources in Europe. So he was coming over here to find gold. But when he came over here, he found the Tainos, so that's just from my research. It's like he knew they knew where they were going, but that's just from my research. Could be wrong. Everybody fact check, do your own
due diligence
research.
Yep, do your own due diligence.
And I promote doing your own research and fact checking us. If anyone like you want the reference, because I've works cited everything in my in my book.
Autobiography.
I'm work citing everything. So you're rarely going to. You will definitely hear me verbalize things. But the reason why you will hear me verbalize things is because before I go into a topic, like let's say Christopher Columbus, right? I will reference the year and the event. Like 1492, military occupation of the United States. Really, what occurred in 1492 was the fall of Alhambra, which is why that paragraph starts out with the year that the Red House in Spain fell. The Red House was built by the Moors. The Catholic Church, they had the whole called the Inquisition, is what they called it, was the Inquisition, where during, I think it was about 700 years. You guys asked Brother Michael last week, when did
Brother Malcolm? Yeah.
Brother Malcolm? Brother
He
Malcolm.
said Michael. I'm like, who he talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, we got Brother Malcolm. Yeah.
And I remember you guys had asked him, when did the Moors, enter in Spain, or the question may have been like, when did black people, like rule in Europe, even though we ruled in Europe for a long time.
For years.
The
I mean, like it was called
invasion,
like I was saying, not to cut you off, but like I was saying, it was called the Dark Ages when we were ruling.
Yes.
Yeah, when
the Dark Ages, that's what they called it when we ruled in Europe last time.
And when the whites came and started ruling, they called it the Renaissance. Because when you look up Renaissance, it means rebirth. So yeah, when we were ruling, it was called the Dark Ages. But go ahead, brother.
And that took place. I actually was in the comments that day, and I put the year Muhammad had came up here, or came up into Albion, into Spain, and took that area over, which is the year 711 AD. That's when the Moors invaded Spain in 711 AD. So like you will hear me verbalize a lot of historical context. So if you are in the comments and there is a question, or if anyone does if you purchase the book when I complete it, like there's going to be a work cited list for sure. But I'm always going to have the reference there. I will always reference a year or an event, by the name. So, because a lot of people will assume that, we're making up this information, and the PowerPoint of my book is that none of this information that I'm sharing is made up by me. I'm taking information that we already have on our .gov sites, at the library. You can Google it if you want, but there's also books as well. All this information, it's not my information, so don't think that you will be like proving me wrong or shooting me down or hurting my feelings, because my feelings ain't finna be hurt. This ain't my information. This one is all of our information, but this is old information. These books been published. They've been looked over by renowned institutes. I just have access to it, and we have the internet. We have a platform to where we can share our access to information. So that's really what I do want to share. Like, no one ever think that, don't think you're going to be hurt. My feelings ain't going to be hurt like that. I'm just sharing what we could all be going into.
Yeah, I hear that. That's what's up. So, with that said, I know we were talking and you said something about when we were discussing the pyramids. Would you like to touch on that a little bit?
So, the pyramids of Giza
hold on real quick. Yeah. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay. Is there something that you wanted to go into before that? Or is it okay to jump into that? Or do you want to touch on that in a little bit?
I want to just jump into things after, like, okay. I read my introduction.
Okay.
I have more of the book, but the most important part, I feel like, is the introduction, as it's introducing
that was very
context of the book. where everything else is going into detail. Where if like you want to know more about, Woodrow Wilson's successful segregation of the federal government, section going into that. Alhambra and the Moors, section going into that. Unum Sanctum and the Papal Bulls, before the Europeans began coming to the Americas, there's a section all about, Pope and how, he addressed the Roman populace about, hey, we finna go over here, we finna capture all these pagans, and we gonna make them perpetual servitude to us because they don't believe in our God. Gonna be there's a section of all that, so I felt like the most important thing that I did want to read was just the introduction because it's designed to, one, give you all the information that you really need to know, and then captivate you to then read the book so that you know
that was
more
a very
about
good introduction. That was a very good introduction. Like, I can't wait until you are done with this book so I can read it. Man, that was I really like that introduction. It was dope, man. Got you.
Thank you. But yeah, the pyramids of Giza, it's funny because we call that place, we call it Egypt.
Okay, well, hold on, brother. Hold on real quick. Before you go there, I've heard that the pyramids here in South America are older than the ones in, is it Giza or Giza? Giza?
I believe it probably has multiple pronunciation.
But it's Giza, yeah, exactly. Now, I'm hearing that the ones here in South America are older than the ones in Giza. What you think about that?
That's a fact.
That's
a fact. They did. They used their science. And when I say they, I'm talking about the hybrid European. And the reason why I consider them they or different from myself is because they consider themselves different from humans. They will often call themselves like mankind and differentiate themselves from the human family themselves.
Yeah, meaning they're kind of man.
Yeah.
Human means colored man. Mankind is a kind of man. Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Yeah, so that's how they view everybody else, So I just, it's just like if we were to like touch on, how they have like the homosexuals and stuff now and their little pronouns and whatnot, they want to be called by that. We didn't call them that. That they wanted to differentiate themselves from us. We was never differentiated from ourselves. We included them, but when they got their knowledge, their Kundalini's awakened, their leaders, ascended. They're like, you know what? We different. We want to be different. Which is why I say they. But yeah, they use their science, to pretty much prove like carbon dating and whatnot that the pyramids here in the Americas are more archaic. They are older than the pyramids of Giza that are there in Cairo, Egypt, Afro-Eurasia. But that area where Giza is at, earlier in history, that was Carthage. For a long time, if we read the journals of Socrates, of Plato's, Marcus Aurelius, these Greek, Roman philosophers that are idolized by Europeans, they idolize their philosophers the same way we idolize, Yahshua ben Yosef, Jesus. Same way we idolize Buddha or Muhammad. They idolize Malcolm X and all these. Noble Drew Ali, for instance, is a good reference that I will use. A lot of conscious people know of Noble Drew Ali, and what he did for us, setting up, the Moorish Science Temple of America, pushing out the first literature about, hey, black man, you're American, pushing out that information. So if we look at a lot of their philosophers, they never called that area Egypt. They never called it what we are calling it now. They called it Carthage. The military general referred to it as Carthage. The Bible refers to it as Carthage, and the people as Carthaginians. They never called them African. Those terms that we use to describe Afro-Eurasia takes place after, I believe the year is 1889, called the Berlin Conference, 1889.
Right.
Where the Berlin Conference was pretty much, they divided the booty of the Moors. They had won the war completely, and they were dividing the booty of the Moors, which was that area. They began giving parts of what they called Africa, which is they named it after Sissipo Africanus, who was a Roman general that
it was Italian,
that conquered, beat Hannibal, or beat the last nigga that was in power, however you want to see it.
Also, American Vespucius, that's what they named this corporation under.
Oh yes, Americano Vespucci is not named after him.
Oh, they didn't name that corporation after him?
I also touch in on that too, because there's a section in here where I talk about Al-Morocco.
Okay.
And Al-Morocco is Moorish Latin. It is America when you translate from Moorish Latin to
Latin. What? You're right. I did see. Yes, I did see that. I seen it like down in South America, like where they was in the spelling of it. Do you know the spelling of it was? What was the spelling? It was like KK or?
Yeah, it's I spelled it in English. AL with an apostrophe, MORROCO. But in certain contexts, if you go to the United States.gov page, because they actually have the context there on the .gov page, the Al-Moroccan, when they're talking about the Almoroccans, they spell it with a K.
Okay, that's what I see.
You're
right on that.
But that's also a Old English is what they're using in that time period. They're using Old English, and now we use English. But Al-Morocco is Moorish Latin, and it actually gets translated from Moorish Latin into Latin. And then from Latin, we have like Latin gets translated, which is Latin is what the Romans spoke. The Greeks spoke those languages.
Isn't English Latin too?
What? You broke up.
Okay, Portuguese, Spanish, and I think English is Latin too. I think.
Yeah, English is translated out of those languages. It's the next,
right?
It's, the descendant of those languages. Something I actually wanted to talk about last week, 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Kanye West's anti-Semitic, his anti-Semitic views, how they said he was anti-Semitic, and now we have a lot of people claiming to be Semitic, but when you look up Semitic, it's different from looking up Semite. Semite is a noun that is referring to people, but Semitic is an adjective. When you Google it, it's an adjective referring to a language family, a family of languages, which is why, like a lot of people will say we are not Semitic, because we are human beings. We aren't an adjective. We're not the descriptive word. We are person. We're not place or thing, but we are person.
Like
now it's person, place, or thing.
Like when it comes to Semitic, when it comes to Semitic, Hamitic, pretty much I feel like those is just terms. That's not really. It's like
it's a term describing a language family. So like that's what we're talking about right now. with English being a descendant of Latin, Portuguese, Old English, German. Those Old English, German, Latin, Portuguese being descended from Moorish Latin. Moorish Latin being descended from, the Hebrew, Phoenician language and alphabet. These languages, they are, that term is talking about a family of languages, not people,
right?
Which is different. Is very different. Even though people speak the language, that is what it's talking about. It's connotative linguistics that is being used against us to get us to claim something that we are not. We are Moors. We are, we are Hebrew. We are the ones that crossed over the river. We are the Ibri. Those people, those are us. But some of the terms, when you look at the terms, those terms are not talking about a people. They're talking about exactly what it's talking about, like Semitic is talking about a language family. But that's what we're talking about, right? Is, with the Al-Moroccan, Al-Morocco, it's a different language. Like we actually know different languages. We can pronounce some of these different languages. It's there. We know that we speak in a different language. We learned English, which is a universal language that everyone can comprehend. But when we look at Al Morocco and then you translate it into English, it is America. American is Al Moroccan. You're just taking those vowels, because vowels are interchangeable, and we're replacing them.
Right.
And that's how we're getting, we get American. American comes from the Al Moroccan people. And it's there, like when you pronounce the spell, when you pronounce the word, it's actually there. The phonetics is there. It is the same word. You just saying it in a different language.
So I got a question for you. Where do you think the Nile River is? Can you expand on that? Remember we were talking about that? Is the Nile really over in the so-called Middle East, or is it over here?
No, that was the Atlantic. The Nile was the Atlantic, and during the time of Ham, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son, a great deluge, a great drudge happened, an earthquake happened that caused that river to become an ocean. But first it became, an impassable terrain because there was so much landmass there around the river that when it did become an ocean, it's just mud. You can't even travel. That's why the Americas was a lost continent, because when that deluge did occur, you couldn't even sail your boat over here no more because it was so much land covered over with water. It's not even sediment yet. Like the land ain't even settled on the base yet. So it became like impassable. The pillar, you couldn't go past the Pillars of Hercules no more. The people who were stuck on the other side, they couldn't come over here no more. Because at one point, the Father and the Son, they were together. Like we was traveling back and forth. There was the Moors, period. The Moors, they were setting up institutions, civilization, from the main empire, which was the Al Moroccan Empire, which is Maghreb, Al-Aqsa, which is the northwest hemisphere, the North Gate. That's why, when they took over this area, it's just a superpower. All the resource was over here. All the resources over here. They took this area over and became a world superpower because this was this was the seat of the world, was over here. This was where the mother of civilization occurred over here, which is why, now a lot of true history is coming out,
Hold on. Family in the audience, did you hear what he just said? Family, did you hear him just say civilization started over here in the Western Hemisphere. Is that what you just said?
That's in the Northwestern Hemisphere.
Wow. Wow. Family, do your research. Do your research. That's kind of deep right there, man. Because everybody, all the natural resort, or there's so much natural resources over. Well, it's here too, but over in Africa, that they're saying that's where civilization started. The first man started, and you're telling the audience that it started over here in the Western Hemisphere. Audience, fact check. That's pretty deep. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead on that. I like that. I like where you're going with it.
And a lot of us, we're trying to, a lot of people who are trying to be proactive in the conscious community, we are trying to come out with our own literature. This is the time for us to come out with our own literature because, are there, but we need to do the work to connect the dots.
Hold on. You say that if life started in the West Indies, right, over here, in America, right,
Western Hemisphere over this way.
Okay. Do you mean like in North America?
So what I said was that this is the mother of civilization was here in Al Morocco, America. At the time it was called the land of Ham. And if you reference the Bible and you go into the Bible, y'all bring on Brother Malcolm. I'm pretty sure he'll go into it for you guys on the land of Ham. That's what it was referred to in the time, the Father's land. And then there was the division between the Father and the Son, where then we got Cush and everything that became Cush over there. The Son inherited the land that had divided. And they got all type of proof for that when you look at Florida.
The reason I'm saying that is because if it's in America as we know it, wouldn't that make people more pale skinned because they're further away from the equator?
No, it wouldn't make them more pale skinned at all. Reason why is because where civilization occurred on the planet was around the equator. And at this time where the Almanaccan Empire was set up is this landmass that is the United States, how large it is.
Right.
Are the capitals of civilization, Teotihuacan, all these other places over here in the Americas, they are around the equator when you look at them. Those pyramids are there. There are also pyramids far out into United States, and Canada as well. But it doesn't mean that people would be more pale skinned, but it is why we are a coppered complexion, because we weren't just living at the equator and around the equator. We were living here too. People would go down to Atlantis, Teotihuacan, Central America, South America, the Atlantis period, Babylon, was on
That's
that.
Atlantis. South America is Atlantis, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
America is Atlantis. And I am saying that, as well as I'm saying that where, old capitals were at, those land masses have been lost due to climate change. Because
you bring that a good point. If you go way back in time before climate change was really a big deal, where our icebergs were still froze and big and not falling apart and melting, ocean levels were way smaller, because you got to remember 70% of Earth is made up of ocean, and 90% of the landmass underneath the Earth, underneath the ocean, we haven't even explored. So there's no telling what kind of civilizations or towns or whatever was there, because we know Earth is has been around longer than 2,000 years.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
millions.
right. So thinking about it from this standpoint, how many times has an the world annihilating asteroid hit Earth and has wiped out humanity as we know it, and it's been rebuilt? It's just every time it's come back, it's been more technologically advanced, or at least evolved to a more technologically advanced society.
Yeah,
Is that
we could never truly know. But
never?
but the thing with all that is, like, that is our history. Like, a lot of people, a lot of well credentialed owned um, philosophers would all agree on that. And just to continue on with like the equator topic, is, those time periods, we all agree that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, that 1 billion years of human history is lost. They call it the Great Unconformity. Like, it's a billion years of human history we have no information for, which is just a lie. It is information there. It's just underneath the new ocean levels, because
Right.
global techie, there are all these other different areas, Japan and out over here in the Americas, where they have underneath the fucking ocean, right underneath right off the coasts of their countries. They've got
Off the
all
coast of
these
Japan.
civilizations
There's
underneath the water there.
right,
Huh?
right. They have they have over in Japan, off of the coast of Japan, there's pyramids.
Yeah, and they, they trying to get the funding together to probe into those and really
Right.
understand, this mystery. And I can help them. My book will help so many people, because, with what AG was mentioning about, like, if this was the seed of life, I don't believe that the Americas is the seed of life. It was the mother of civilization. It's my personal belief that life began on the planet, period. Like, we weren't just in one area. We manifested all over the planet. In
Right.
some divine, miraculous way, humans were living all over the planet, period. But where civilization really began, it began here in the Americas. And then we start
Right.
spreading that civilization to all of our people. Then that's where you start. That's why all around the world, you start finding pyramids. You start finding the same culture, because it all came from one civilization, one mother,
Okay. So
and
Adam and Eve, did they exist?
Adam and
Adam and
Eve,
Eve.
all day long. I really do consider it to be Eve and Adam, but Adam and Eve, the story of Adam and Eve is that, one, it is a story, it's not
Why Eve and
an
Adam?
actual.
Why Eve first and Adam second?
For
No, it's
me,
Adam and Eve.
it is
It's
Adam and
Adam.
Eve, but for me, I consider it Eve and Adam, because
It
the
will make
Y
more sense to
chromosome,
consider it that way.
the don't be offended by this, anybody, but the Y chromosome mutated out of the X chromosome.
Ooh, do your research, people. That's
Which is
big
why,
right there.
But
which is
the
why
Bible did
I
say,
do consider it Eve and Adam.
wait, but the Bible did say that God created man first.
Yeah, and
And
man means
then,
being. Man does not
okay,
mean
wait.
male.
And that being Adam, he said that Adam was lonely, so he took one of Adam's 12 ribs and gave it to and created Eve, and that's why we have 11 ribs. So it would have to be Adam, then Eve.
That's if you're
Based on what we're taught. So
Yeah.
based,
that's
yeah.
programming, but then also I was watching a YouTube video, and a girl said, "Why do we not consider man and woman equal?" And the guy says, "Because we're not." And she says, "Well, name one reason why we're not equal." And he says, "Because we have penises." And she said, "So because you have a penis, you're superior, you're better than us?" And he said, "No, we are not the same. We are different. I'm not saying that I'm better than you. I'm just saying we're not the same." So
Mhm.
who is first? Because in all scripture that we've learned, it was man, and then he was lonely, and a woman was created for him.
And doesn't the X and Y chromosome come from the man?
No, the Y chromosome comes from the Y chromosome is what makes us male.
The X, but
But
doesn't the male doesn't the man carry the X and Y chromosome? Because
yeah, he carries X and
we
Y.
determine what the baby is going to be, and doesn't the kid also have the same blood type as the father?
I'm not too positive on the blood type information. I but going
That's
off
okay.
like Punnett square and genealogy that that I had for education, um, male and female determine the sex, even though the female can only give the X chromosome because she has two X chromosomes.
But wait, when God created Adam and Eve, he considered them both Adam. Adam was the one who called her Eve.
He
You
named
got to,
her the same
yeah,
way he named all the other things that
right,
God had created before him.
right. But so she was second. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying to people out there that a man is more superior than a woman. I'm just trying to give accurate facts of, if you're talking from a biblical standpoint. Just like I was trying to explain that, it just, when it comes to, is a man better than a woman or is a woman better than a man, it depends on what woman is up against what man. A very large woman that's really strong should be able to beat up a really weak little man, you
Hey
know.
Cedric, Anthony gonna get us. Anthony gonna get us stabbed. Look, I might need to stay away from that dude. He gonna get us
I
cut.
mean, I'm just asking,
Shit.
because I'm not saying we're not equal. I'm just saying we're different. I don't believe that um, all men are more superior than all women. I think that the strongest man is stronger than the strongest woman, because genetically we were built stronger. I'm not gonna
yeah,
say that.
but the woman
Well, you
created
better
us
clean that shit
for
up.
a purpose.
No, we
That
the man
that's
has
what
the
the
X and
Bible
Y.
does not tell us is that the female, the reason why her chromosome even mutated to begin with was because this planet needed protection. It needed warriors at a time where it was being invaded by whatever hostile force we cannot firmly, duly confirm. But it is my personal belief that the reason why the chromosome, why does any gene mutate to become better? And I'm not saying that as in we are better than women, but from my understanding, if the planet, because I'm actually very spiritual, I don't base my reality off the Bible, off of
That's what I
patriarchy.
wanted to. That's what I wanted to know because, you guys are going off of the science of the Bible, and I'm like, well,
The
is
Bible
that
to
your
me ain't
religion?
it ain't real.
Do you believe in the Bible? Do you believe in the Old Testament, New Testament, all the books, the Apocrypha, the 10 books that's not even in it? Like, because you guys are talking about the science of the Bible, so is that what you believe in?
I don't believe in the Bible. To me, it's not the Bible, it's the seven books of Moses. Before it was the Bible, it's the seven books of Moses.
I thought it was the five
Because
books of
his
Moses.
seven books are comprised to make the Old Testament. You know, so for me, the Bible is just like my autobiography. You know, it's somebody taking information and comprising the knowledge base for the bettering of humanity. That's what it is for me. It's not a literal thing. You know, it's not like Adam and Eve for me. Those aren't actual human beings
Okay,
that
there we
live
go. There
on
we
the
go.
planet.
Because that was the second time we was talking about that. I'm like, well, that's the science of the Bible. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, there's a lot of prophecies that fit us. Do you feel that those are mythical characters in the book, or do you
They're
feel
definitely
like it's a plagiarism from Kemet?
it is a redemption. That's what I won't call it a plagiarism. I call it a redemption, which is
Okay,
pretty much it is a story retold,
okay, okay, okay.
which
I
is
got
what that is. And like for me, I'm what's called irreligious. When I came into the Moorish information and I was doing my self studying, what the first thing that I had studied was the same thing that you said you were curious on. What was our religion? You know, what was we believing in? And for 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 me, it was that we were irreligious. For me, to religion, which is why people like Jesus, like Yahshua ben Yosef, he wasn't Christian, he wasn't Islamic, he wasn't Buddhist, but he traveled all around the world and accepted everybody's belief, practiced everybody's belief, studied everybody's belief because he was irreligious. He was indifferent to what you believed in. You believed in it, you could teach me what you believe in. I want to learn from you. And
right,
that's how I've been trying to I've been trying to do the story of Jesus, live like that type of being who was
right, right.
kundalini awakened, who ascended. You know, he sinned, but he still loved God. God still loved him. But for me, my personal belief is that I believe in spirituality. I'm a real spiritual type person. I believe in manifestation. If I'm
Right,
gonna
right.
have something, I gotta create it. I gotta think it in my mind. I gotta intend it. I gotta will it. And then I gotta start doing shit in
That's where it
actuality to make it
starts.
happen.
Right. Let
And
me. Oh, go ahead. No, that's right.
so
That's right.
that's
It
where it
starts in
comes
your mind.
from with my belief system is that
Okay.
I'm coming from a place of manifestation, right? And that like I learned in the Bible that God made us in his image. So for me, what is God? God is power. So anything more powerful than me is God. No other man is more powerful than me. So when I think of something that's more powerful than me, I immediately start going to big things, the sun, the planet, these power sources that are actual power sources. The planet provides life for all three of us, not just
Exactly.
all three of us, but for birds, for the fish, for lion, for elephant. It provides energy that I can't provide for things to live. I could have a child, but man, I can't have all these different living beings live how they live on planet Earth. So for
Right.
me, Earth is a god. It is a god-like entity. It is a
Everything.
being that is
The air we
indifferent and
breathe.
don't change.
Right.
Huh?
The air we breathe, the vitamin D we get from the sun, the water we drink that replenishes us and keeps us hydrated. You know, I got a question. See, what do you feel about this? You know how it says we all come from one person, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a flower. Say you have a rose. All these different, in the flower world, you have a rose. All these different flowers, a lily, a rose, um, all these different, how can I say this? It's not that all these different flowers came from this rose. You know, you have different in the sea world. You have different fish. Did not all fish come from this one fish? You know, and so on and so forth. Do you think we all came from one person?
Yeah.
Because
For
I feel
sure,
like
yeah.
on the planet there was different races, you know.
No, there most definitely was different races. That is recorded.
Yeah, I don't
We were
feel like
talking about the Neanderthal. We were talking about Homo sapien, the Denisovan. There are definitely the giants are a different race of being that on the planet,
right.
and that's recorded. Not even that's in the Old Testament. Moses and his armies, when they was going to the Promised Land, you know, Yahweh had to help them fight giants. I was reading. I actually loved the Bible as a story to read because it's
It's a
great.
dope story.
You know, you,
But
you,
you
you
have
could
to
also
read
look
it
at it.
like a story. You can't read it like Bible study. Where they have you go in and you reading certain verses, and analyzing certain verses because some verses from other books are referenced in the New Testament, and you gotta go back to the New Testament to the Old Testament to understand what they're
Well, it
talking about
tells
in
you
this one because the story is continuing.
it
And
tells you
so
how you read the Bible. It tells you to take a little here, take a little there. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to just read it up and down like a regular book. Here a little, there a little. That's what it says.
I read it as a regular book. I read it from
Right.
front to back, how I would read. That's how I was
Well,
taught.
yeah, but you can come with something right here, and you can pull it from you can start in the New Testament somewhere or the Old Testament somewhere, the Torah. Then you can go in the New Testament and get something that refers to that. All the different concepts and stuff. So but you can read it like that. Let me ask you this. What do you feel about the flat Earth? Is it flat to you? Is it round? What do you think about the flat Earth?
Earth. So like that's what I was trying to go into is that not that
The Earth
Earth
is
is
flat.
God, but that we are made in God's image. So it only makes sense that if God was to manifest himself, because the point of us even being alive here is to protect and tend to the Garden of Eden. That's Adam's whole story was, hey, I'm creating you so that you can manage all of this because you be there to do it.
Right.
That was his whole purpose of being created was for that. So for me, if Earth had to manifest itself to take care of itself, we look like Earth, and its first manifestation because Earth is a mother. It give life. We in the womb right now. That's how we live it. So it only makes sense for me that the woman did come first because if it could manifest itself being a godlike being, it got the ability to manifest instantaneous like that. We can't do that. We got to actually have sex to create life, and we need the other one. But the planet it water, it made these. So that's why I would consider what I said. The Y chromosome mutated out of the X chromosome, and it mutated for a reason, which is because a mutation was needed in the being to achieve a specific purpose. And when you look at dudes, we stronger than the female. We think differently. We think with reason and logic. What I consider, we think like warriors. We on a different mentality.
We have
women.
different minds, straight up.
Like when we think about, we analyzing shit. We looking at how your eye is fluctuating. We looking at your shoulder. His shoulder twitching. He getting ready to throw that arm.
Yeah.
To use that arm. We think different. So what I believe is that the Y chromosome, it mutated because we were needed. And now what's happening is the Y chromosome. They say the Y chromosome is starting to shrink. If pretty soon it's going to go extinct. And there ain't going to be dudes. There's going to be less men than there are women on the planet.
Have you ever heard of a woman? Have you ever heard the science of a woman can get herself pregnant?
Yeah, they used to have a bone in their coccyx that would self-inseminate them, and I read that, and it actually helped me like focus into my theory, my theology. You know, it helped me focus because if they could get themselves the story of the Amazonians and all that, it would make sense of these warrior women that lived on the planet. Something happened, right? They had to create some being to protect the planet that they could no longer protect. So
That's deep right there.
They started to have dudes. They started to have males. They had better warriors. They're gene modified, and now they got better warriors. We are the better warrior for them. But to go into your question, you know, which is why.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you answer that question?
And this ties into it is that for me, the Earth, you know, it is a being. It is a multi-dimensional existence. The Earth, it's not round. It's not flat. It has planes of existence. And at certain planes, what is a plane? A plane is a flat landscape. That's what a plane is. If you go out to a plane, it's a bunch of grass and it's just straight land. That's what a plane of existence is. A plane is flat. And the Earth has multiple planes of existence. It's got the atmosphere, it's got its gravity, it's got its stratosphere, it's got the Earth, it's got water, it's got the core. You know, it's got all these different parts of itself, you know, that actually are flat. It's not that the Earth.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean, though. When I say, is it flat or round?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I take on the flat Earth.
Hold on. So you said you're going with the flat Earth?
Yeah, because I realize you don't accept flat Earth, it limits you because you're not understanding multi-dimensions and how the multi-dimension works, because you think of it like this, right? And that we're on the outside, but really we're on the inside of the planet.
Never thought about that. Of it. So when you see the moon and you see all these other planets and you're looking and it's circled, you're saying we're seeing like the bottom part of the moon?
We're seeing one side of the moon. The moon is a sphere, just like the planet is, but the moon is inside Earth. That's a satellite inside of Earth. Like, you don't see the other stars like you see the moon. You know, the stars don't move. The moon moves. And the reason why the moon moves is because it's in the Earth's magnetic sphere. It's in its energy. And one thing that we do know about ourselves is we got an aura, and that aura is in motion. And how that aura moves is identical to the planet and the tectonic shift of the planet. The planet moves, and things that are within the planet's orbit around the planet or within the planet's energy, because that's all an orbit is a force. We orbiting in the sun. We inside the sun. We see the core of the sun, but the light that warms this planet is also the sun. And we in a part of that light. And this is how, like, you know, why we can see the sun, how we see the sun. But the sun move because we in the sun's orbit. But when we look at the stars are stationary. Those constellations don't move. The Big Dipper is always the Big Dipper. Like, it don't have a star that move out. It got to come back the Big Dipper move. All those pieces of it move, you know, stays the same. You know, it don't separate from each other. Those stars are stationary. And that's what I mean by, like, the moon itself is within Earth. Earth is with the sun. And when we see those stars, those are all outside of us. That's why they don't move. You don't see those little dots move a single bit. You never see them move. What's moving. And so that's you know, that just goes into multi-dimension. You know, Earth is in a dimension of the sun, of its closest star. And like I said, the sun, a God being too. I don't consider us to be gods. We will have people on this show, I'm pretty sure, and they will talk about how we are gods. I don't consider us to be God because once I die, I'm dead. But you know what? My son, my daughter, they'll see the moon. They will see the sun. They will see mountains unchanged. Those are godlike, but we change.
So you don't feel like our energy goes somewhere else? You don't feel
It
like
do
our
go
spirit
somewhere else.
lives on? Because we are energy. And I just want to say shout out to Justin Moreno in the chat. We appreciate you. We see you. We appreciate you, Justin. Go ahead. Go ahead, King. Okay. Everybody,
yeah, I just
hit
have to
the like
put
button,
the laptop on.
subscribe. Hit the like button, subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. What's going on? What you say, Cedric?
I just have to put the laptop on the charger. Give me 1 second.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you, brother. Okay. So it goes into our multi-dimensional. I'm a firm believer in multi-dimensional existence. You know that we are energy. We are going to return to source. You know, and how we return to source, decomposing, however you want to see it. You know, the child that you have is how you living on. You know, your energy continuing on here on this plane, and then you also got some type of energy that goes into, you know, nurturing other life and whatnot. You know, like, you know, that's all a part of being a multi-dimensional being. That's going to happen, you know, but I don't believe that makes us God-like, or it could make us God-like. I don't believe it makes us God. It don't make us gods. You know, that is something that, you know, that's a part of, you know, Western culture, you know, Roman patriarchal society. You know, that's their ideology and theology is man being God, which is why, you know, they began taking over the planet. You
Well,
know,
like the Bible says, God, it says, God is in you. God is in you, and the kingdom of heaven is in you. So what I get from that is you make your own destiny. You know what I'm saying? God is in you to be great. The kingdom of heaven, if you want to be happy, it's in you. You know, that's how I feel about that situation.
Same.
But I get what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I just had to say that because it is touchy talking about us not being gods, but they have this agenda just like they have, you know, I don't have anything against homosexuality, but they have an agenda to promote false concepts for their own intention. Because those Jewish mystics, they are warlocks, they wizards, just like all three of us are wizards. They got the same power that we got, you know, we get the same power that they got. You know, we could do magic and stuff too, but they have their own agenda, their own intention that they are trying to serve. So they push certain concepts, you know, because, you know, I believe that it does have a repercussion. When we are in a certain mental thought, it either limits our belief or expands our belief. And a lot of people, you know, they get into all these different theologies, you know, and they get into a limiting belief system, you know, where, you know, some people are like they're anti-life, where, you know, girl on girl, boy on boy relationship, you know, that's normal type thing, you know, when really, if everybody was doing that, you would never
in
have
100 years, there'd be no one else. How do you, and with that said, how do you feel about them pushing in elementary schools where they have books where it says daddy loves Bobby, you know, where they're pushing the gay agenda to the kids in school, in elementary school? How do you feel about that?
I feel like finishing my book, putting out my own literature, putting out our own literature, because all of that's Roman. You know, that
It
is
is. Roman
that's
means
their culture.
Greek,
You know, their
Greek culture,
is
Greek culture and Roman culture. Roman really stands for romance a man.
yeah.
That's what that stands for. And they get that from the Greek culture too. You know, Alexander the Greek, he was homosexual also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the Greek
Need
culture,
everybody to fact check.
yeah,
I don't want to
everybody.
promote any misinformation. YouTube gets funny with that, so I want to make sure that you guys, fact check. I'm not promote anything misinformation. I also did hear that. So if it is wrong, please reach out and comment. Let me know. I do have a question for you. If you're saying that all this homosexuality and stuff like that is created by them, and there's an agenda, from a father's point of view, a dad's point of view, because this is what my father said to me. Because I said, Dad, when you have me, did you ever worry that I might be gay? He said, son, no. And I said, why? He goes, because if you're gonna be, you're gonna be whatever you're gonna be. But I am going to lead by example and be a role model to you, to hope that you understand that family, the sanctity of family, for the sake of procreation from a biblical standpoint, like you said, Big Twizz, is between a man and a woman, for the fact for life and civilization to continue.
Exactly.
And am I saying that a man and a man and a woman cannot be in unity in friendship, that they have taken to a sexual level? Amen. Whatever floats your boat is whatever floats your boat. But to call it marriage and family, it's a very gray area for me. I do have a cousin that is gay, and I mean I have a couple cousins, and I'm not gonna say I disagree with them, because I love everybody as an individual when I meet them, and as long as they're not pushing their philosophies upon me, I'm going to treat you with the same respect that you give me. So
right, you should. That's
but I don't, and right now in the school system, I've noticed when it gets closer to Christmas time, they always want to preach sex education. I have a problem with that, to the extent that it's no longer just the birds and the bees, and it is preaching kind of what you were saying about the unum
sanctum policy.
Philosophy, yeah. That now, because when we went to school, it was more of birds and the bees. Boys have penises, women have vaginas, and babies are made through intercourse, which is the insertion of a penis into a vagina. I mean, you know how, and they left it at that. The fact that we are allowing things like homosexuality, I'm not saying it is wrong. Okay, what you do behind your closed door is your business, and I'm not going to down anybody for it by no means. But this just kind of curious for people to think outside the box and think deeper, just to create dialogue. It's not my view. I'm just, want to ask a question, so to speak. If you're gay and the law says that sodomy is illegal, then how can we make it legal to marry same sex? More so a man marrying another man, because sodomy is illegal. Women don't necessarily sodomize each other.
Right.
They play with the vaginal canal, I'd like to say, traditionally. I mean, what people do.
They would need a man to be sodomized.
Right.
But for them, that would be considered rape.
So the fact that a man is sleeping with another man, in the laws, it says that sodomy is illegal, then how can we legally allow the sanctity of marriage happen between two men? Let's forget about the two women for a second, and just between two men. How can we, and like I said, I'm not taking a stance on either way. I'm just asking a question from a legal standpoint of how is that, I want people to think deeper. Like I said, I don't have
That's
a problem with
point. I never thought about
gay,
that.
Men or homosexual. I do not have a problem with that. As long as you don't force that view upon me.
Right.
We can all hang out, have drinks, kick it, whatever. I'm not tripping. I'm not homophobic. I'm just not homosexual. But I do, it's just a question. What's your thought?
You think every gay man wants you?
No. Because I'd like to say,
I'm messing with you, man.
I'm not worried about it, man.
Funny. That's funny.
Yeah, no, that is a very good question and very good point.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah,
very fine line, that we're all on and discussing. But
shout out, Justin.
But that is why we're discussing it. I feel like because it's a fine line. It needs to be talked about. Especially unoffensively, undefensively. And for the entire community, how do we all legalize that? How is that all an acceptance? For me, I had rationalized it through history, and when I go back through history, where does all of that begin really becoming a seat of power is in Roman patriarchal man worship. The worship of man as God. That was the Romans' theology.
I forgot. This is what I wanted to tell you. Like in Greek, they had ended up kicking all the women out. Because they now do your own research, people. Do your own fact checking. Okay. Now, with that said, they kicked the women out of Greece, and then the women all went to the island next door. You ever heard of Island Lesbo?
No.
It's right. Yeah, it's right off of the coastline, the west coastline of Greece. They kicked them out, bro. They kicked them out, and then damn, we can't make more soldiers. But they were over there. The women were over there for so long. They started being warriors. They was like, man, well.
Another Amazon story.
Right, like we got to go back. We got to go back over there and get them, and they became warriors. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about Island Lesbo.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's right next to Greece. It's called Island Lesbos. That's where that came from. Then they start building up
that
their
actually sounds Greek, though.
You ready?
Yeah, they built up their army of women to protect, because when the men were coming, they were like, wait a minute, we got to go get these women and make babies with them. We decrease it. We got to go get these women. And that's where the legend of Wonder Woman comes from. You know how it's a planet and it's a woman of warriors? That's where that comes from.
Okay, hold on. Listen. Yeah. So it says during the prehistoric era, the island was called Macaria, Lacia, Elos, Ethope, but its current name is Lesvos, Lesvos, comes from Levos, son of the Greek hero Lapithos. Makar is reputed to be the first king whose daughters bequeathed their names to some of the present larger towns.
Yeah,
And even in the phonetics
Lesbos.
there,
That's where that
Makar,
comes from.
Makar, America, you know, Amazons were over here, you know, like
Right.
like they were that was all Wonder Woman and all that stuff, like all
Yeah, and I heard
Batman.
that also. Yeah, the women warriors, you know. Yeah. Yep.
That was the matriarchal society. That was how we was running shit. We ran shit matriarchally, you know, where our women was in charge and the men, you know, the men did what the men needed to do. We trained as warriors, hunted, built the civilization with our hands, you know, lifting the heavy shit, you know, and all that. I'm gonna look more into it, but I'm pretty sure they probably have so many references to that island in Hollywood, in books and little cartoons. This is what they do with the Unum Sanctum policy, the predictive programming, is they turn it in, they turn it into a visual learning cue. That's why they love for our kids to get on the phone, be on the internet, and be looking into all this stuff because they have instant access to the kids' mental space, their mental plane of existence. They push, you know, they're pushing all the grooming, you know. Now it's a whole grooming that they're pushing on. It's always been that for them, you know, whatnot. For me, a lot of this stuff has been going on. It ain't nothing new happening. You
That's
know,
what the
they've
Bible
been
say.
doing it.
Ain't nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, they've been doing it. If you look up a lot of history, a lot of the Roman leaders, they were sexual. A lot of the generals were homo. You know? And this is not every general in time, but a lot of their leaders, their worship, their idols were like that. You know, that was
Spartans.
their whole thing, man.
Right.
I don't know about the Spartans. You know, I like the Spartans and Thermopylae and stuff. I felt like they was against it. You know, they wasn't trying to be a part of it.
Nah, they was with it. They was with it. They was with it. All the men, yeah, they was with it. Do your research, people.
I wouldn't put it past them, you know, in those time periods, you know, like, you know, they got nothing but traitors and all that type of. I've watched so many historical, you know, like little series, and there's always that I've noticed is the fall of those civilizations are due to one of their people, right, betraying them to be with some whole other people that don't want nothing good for even that person who they get to do the betraying.
Right.
And that's really how that's, you know, I like to, you know, bring a lot of stuff. I do bring a lot of stuff back to history. You know, I bring a lot of stuff back to the present as well to, you know, ground my thought, you know, to see how things line up with what I'm experiencing in my lived experience. Which is why, you know, like I said, a lot of that makes me got you. How a lot of that stuff makes me feel is it makes me feel like finishing my book. You know, it makes me feel like, hey, I need to do this. I need to construct, you know, to concise some type of work because, you know, we need our own versions of wizards. We need our own versions of magicians, of leaders, warriors, of generals, of presidents. We need our own versions, putting out their own stuff for our people because where it really comes down to is it comes down um, to forces, to the mental spaces, to energy, to all that is unknown. We know it through our sensories, but it technically is unknown, and it comes down to all that. They heavily attack everybody. You gonna send your kids to school, and you know what? They finna learn, they finna learn all about this stuff, but it ain't finna be from an open mind like our mind is. It's gonna be from a closed mind, an agenda-based mind, where they want, they want your son to be sodomized or do a sodomy. They want that. But it's anti, what they call it, depopulation.
Right. Of course. It's a cycle. They do it every so often. Everybody out there, please give a likes up. You're in the man cave with Big Twizz on the platform Shit Talking Sundays. Please get those likes up. Let's get that rhythm going. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. I don't know if you get out any more questions, man, but I'm trying to.
You know what? I want you to. You know how you said Lincoln was black. I wanted you. I've done a little bit of research, and they used to talk about how his skin was dark, how they used to kind of clown him lightweight about his skin being dark, and how he was tall. Like, you said something about him being black or being mixed. Yeah. You heard something like that also? Because I've heard that too. Right.
And it was like,
his father, I seen a picture of his father, I think. And his father
was a white man. His mom was a slave.
Oh, that's what it was? Because I seen a picture. They had one that looked just like Lincoln, but he looked kind of black. But that was probably Photoshop. You can't trust a lot of the shit that's out there. But yeah,
a lot of his images are photoshopped because he actually was born to a slave mother. His mother was a slave. She was a black woman. And I felt like when I was in school, I was real lucky to be in school when I was, because they actually taught about Abraham Lincoln. And it's really hard to find that context that they used when I was in elementary school. But this is how I was introduced to it. Someone was talking about it, and I had already learned it through my K through 12 indoctrination. I had learned that Abraham Lincoln was mixed, that he was raised by his mother, who was a slave. They were on the outskirts, and he had a whole, I think it may be his journal his autobiography that I have to really purchase and go through. But like, he had a whole upbringing where like he was on the outskirts, and he lived a rough childhood because he was born, mixed in that time period. And then when they realized like, hey, he actually got, like some of his father's traits, like he's smart, he can read, he can learn. He then got educated and become a lawyer and stuff like that. And over time, he ended up becoming, a member of government, being, one of, the intelligent people in that time period. But he, I want to read the journal, the works into it, so I don't really want to talk about it. But I feel like a lot of the evidence is there because one, they killed him. Two, he owned a penny. He the only president owned a copper coin.
That's pointed the other way, away from the other presidents.
He
the only one.
We going way over. We way over. We gonna have to. Not that I put a time limit on it, but I do want people to. I want to give people more to want to come back to listen to. So I don't want to give them everything in one sitting. So I want to invite you back. I didn't expect it to get so deep, but
keep it in Atlantis, man.
History is deep, and history is something that cannot be explained in one session. So if you got any last minute things you want to say and sum up in 60 seconds, man, Cedric, how do you say your last name?
Braziel.
Braziel. I'm giving you
Yeah.
60 seconds and you got the floor.
So this is just for you, AG, because I remember what you were talking about with the equator, and you talked about our glaciers. And I just want to mention for everybody that keep in mind, they tell us the ice age ended, but how could the ice age have ended when those ice caps are still there? We are living in the last years of the ice age. That time period that they say is over, it hasn't ended yet. So we still in a monumental time on the planet. And hopefully next time we could go into that part of my book based on, the ice age and the equator and more information.
Wow, that's crazy.
That yeah,
That was kind of deep.
that was real deep.
Hey, Big Twizz, here you
Hey.
go. 60 seconds.
Okay, brother Cedric,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Grits or cream of wheat?
Grits.
Grits.
Grits, steak or chicken? Okay, yeah, grits, baby.
Hey,
Cheese
hey.
grits, butter grits.
Grits. Wait,
Yeah.
did you say grits or grits?
Grits.
Grits all day long. Grits
Yep.
all day long.
Dripping
All
grits.
day long.
Dripping grits.
Steak or chicken?
Steak.
Steak.
Snoop Dogg or Jay-Z?
Snoop Dogg all day.
Yeah, going Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg all day. Redman or Method Man?
Ooh.
Redman.
Redman?
Redman.
Oh, that
ooh.
is real hard though, man.
You know, I'm
That is-
biased because I've hung out with Redman, so I'm gonna have to go with Redman. Redman, that
Okay.
was a cool dude, man. He was cool. Method Man, I didn't get a chance to meet. Ironically, everybody close. If you don't like vulgar conversation, I met him at the porn convention one year because I was doing a story.
what
in
you
my-
be into, freaky
Bro,
boy?
I was hired by Celebrity Scene News to go out there and cover the porn convention one year. I went out there and Redman just happened to be there. But anyway, that's a whole nother show.
Hey, I hope you didn't come out with an STD.
Oh, no.
I am a red man, so I have.
You know,
Okay. Cornrows or Jerry curls?
we lost him. But I'm gonna take Jerry Curls because I come from that era of Jerry Curls when Ready for the World was the shit. And yours truly, if you can go back and find some pictures of me, post them on here. Shit Talking Sundays. But your boy had probably one of the flyest Jerry curls around. My shit hit the bottom of my back, and women love my stuff, especially on the East Coast. They woo.
Hey
Anyway.
man, you mixed. You had a regular Jerry curl. Okay, I got the next question. Got a couple more questions. I got them for you.
Yep.
He must have froze, so I got them for you.
Hopefully, we need him to come back in.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Arthur Ashe or Jackie Robinson?
Ooh. Arthur Ashe.
Be my-
Oh, there you go.
Arthur
There you go.
or Jerry Robinson.
Hey, Arthur Ashe or Jerry Robinson?
I'm not sure who Jerry Robinson is.
Yeah, I don't know who either of those guys are.
Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson. Ooh.
Oh, Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson.
I mean, Arthur Ashe, he did pave the way for a lot of for black men in the tennis world, right? That's
Right.
what Arthur Ashe was.
Yeah.
But man, Jackie Robinson, he paved the way for music, and he was before Arthur Ashe.
Okay. What you missed, you might have missed this one, Cedric. Cornrows or Jerry curls?
Jerry Curl.
Let your
My brother.
flow.
Hey, it says from a man with dreadlocks.
Okay, right. I thought he was gonna pick
No,
Ray.
me too. I was like, ooh, I know we're not gonna see eye to eye here, but okay.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Let me see. Did you hear the Frederick Douglass or Marcus Garvey?
Ooh.
Shit, man.
I don't even know if I said that. I'm thinking.
I didn't hear
you
it.
didn't-
That's
you
a
didn't say
hard
that.
one.
Yeah. I
That's
know.
an actual hard one, because
Depends on what you're fighting for. Depends on what
he was
yeah, what-
pushing the black agenda, but I think he came from a good heart, So I'm gonna go with Marcus Garvey.
Good deal. Okay.
Yeah.
65 Mustang or 64 Impala?
6'4" all day.
Yes.
Neither.
6'4" all day.
Neither.
What you like, Cedric? What you like, Cedric?
I've always been like an imports type of dude, but I would prefer like a truck.
A truck?
A truck.
Good deal.
Silverado.
Good deal.
Ford or
Silverado?
Chevy?
Hold on.
Ford,
Tundra,
Silverado.
man. I'm Tundra. Team Tundra.
Silverado.
Ford Silverado. Hey man, you can't have it both ways, man. Ford don't make Silverado.
Hey, if it wasn't for Tundra, I would have to go Chevy all day. If it ain't a Chevy, don't raise it up. Hey, last question. Did you enjoy yourself in the man cave on the platform? Shit Talking Sundays.
Man, thank you guys for having me over in the man cave because it really picked my spirit up, man. Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. Man. Yes, sir. I always say you have open invitation. Didn't mean to cut you off, brother. Big Twizz, but yeah, you're always welcome here, man. It's always interesting to get a different point of view and see things. I definitely gonna do my research. I suggest everybody else do the same. We definitely have to say that it is definite proof that in 1492, Christopher Columbus did not discover America, and everything we learned in school, according to that, the media has just came out and spoke about that wasn't necessarily true, just based on the fact that how can you discover something that there was already Native Americans here? So question everything, think deeper, think outside the box. Big Twizz, it's always a pleasure to have you on here, and I'm glad that you were able to turn me on to this kind of a show. Cedric Braziel, brother, keep learning, keep educating, keep sharing, because people don't know the truth until you're told, and sometimes when people tell you the truth, you don't want to hear it. So everybody out there, be blessed. Bless each other, and don't be afraid to reach out and just sometimes pay it forward. Do a good deed just on the strength without wanting recognition. All you cats out there that are taking pictures when you donate to a homeless man and you want to take a picture with them so that you could show all your peoples that you gave to a homeless man, give with your heart, man. Don't give with people for recognition, because the Most High sees the good deeds, and that's the only one you have to prove anything to. Remember that.
AD, and I want to give a shout out to my son-in-law. He's a young soldier coming up, doing his studies. Derek the Damager. He's gonna damage all the lies. Derek the Damager. He's coming up, a young soul, young brave warrior, just like yourself, Cedric. He's coming soon.
Yep.
AD, you got it. Jizzle. Jizzle.
Yep.
I said right. AG. Look, I said AG.
Me back to AD after death. It's AG, man. Everybody. So
AG.
Look, I'm letting everybody know. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show. Until next week, man. This has been his story on Shit Talking Sundays. And be blessed, everybody. Peace.